Another source of market failure is positive externalities. A positive externality of production might be, for example, technological innovation. So through the production process, it might be the case that a firm comes up with a new way in which it can produce a product. This would be a technological innovation. And assuming there's perfect knowledge or close to perfect knowledge, eventually other firms will discover this innovation and they will derive benefits from it. But these other firms who derive benefit from it are external to the firm which engaged in the production in the first place, which resulted in the innovation. So when we think about the marginal social costs of the production of some particular product which has an externality, a positive externality associated with it, we know that the marginal social costs will be calculated by the private costs of production minus the external benefit that would be derived by bystanders. Thus we can see that the marginal social cost production, which includes the positive externality, would be less than the marginal private costs of production. In the case of a positive externality of consumption, this might be, for example, education. The consumption of education results in benefits to bystanders. Those who are not involved in the education market nonetheless can benefit from that by virtue of the fact that there are some consumers who are now better educated. In this case, we would say we take the marginal private benefits associated with education that are experienced by the consumers, and to that benefit we have to add an external benefit to get the overall marginal social benefit, the marginal benefit to the society as a whole. Thus we can see that the marginal social benefits of consumption that involves a positive externality will be greater than the marginal private benefits experienced by the actual consumers. In an unregulated market environment, those external parties, those bystanders who gain from the production or the consumption of a particular good due to the positive externalities, are invisible to the market participants. Thus, the buyers and the sellers only act in accordance with their own private marginal benefits and their own private marginal costs. They don't take account of those externalities experienced by others. And as a result of that, the market equilibrium price and quantity will not reflect these external effects. And as a consequence of that, the equilibrium quantity that obtains in the market that's unregulated will be less than what would be in fact socially optimal. So we can say there's an inefficient allocation of resources because of this positive externality. In particular, there will be an under-allocation of resources to the market. More resources should have been added to that, should have been allocated to that market. Let's take the example of education as a positive externality of consumption and see how that would work graphically. So here's our private market for education. We've got a downward sloping demand curve and an upward sloping supply curve. And we know that there's going to be a positive externality of production. So we need to add, on top of the marginal private benefits experienced by the actual consumers, the external benefits experienced by bystanders. So we need to add that on top. Here's our market equilibrium. We need to add on top of that the external benefits. So this is the positive externality experienced by the bystanders at each level of output. So when we do that, hypothetically, the marginal social benefit curve would be far greater or far higher than the private marginal benefit curve expressed in the market. Where would the socially optimal quantity be for education? Well, it would be where the marginal social benefit equals the marginal social cost. And that's at this point here. So really, the price of education, if we did take account of those external benefits, would be higher and the quantity would be greater. But that's not the quantity and price that adhere in the unregulated free market. Rather than producing at the optimal quantity, the socially optimal quantity, we actually are dragged back to the free market quantity. So rather than the marginal social benefits equaling the marginal social costs, we would go back here to a level of output where the marginal social benefits are greater than the marginal social costs. So there is some economic welfare which is not being experienced because of this underproduction. And that lost economic welfare is indicated by this triangle area here. This is the deadweight loss of economic welfare. And graphically, how do we express the positive externality of production, in this case technological innovation? So here's our free market for a particular product, price and the quantity given there. But we want to find the marginal social cost of production. Now the marginal social costs of production are going to be lower than the private costs of production because the marginal social costs will include not just the private costs, but we take away from that the positive externality effect, which would decrease the overall costs to bystanders. So we would have to push down the marginal social cost curve, the marginal private cost curve, in order to obtain the marginal social cost curve. Where is the optimal output? It's where the marginal social benefits to this are equal to the marginal social costs, which occurs here. In that case, we can see that the free market quantity produced is less than what would be socially optimal, an output level that would take account of those external benefits due to production. Since that's not what actually holds in the free market, we're going to move back from the socially optimal output, where the marginal social benefits equal the marginal social costs, all the way back to here. So the marginal social benefits will be greater than the marginal social cost. The benefit of the last unit of education produced is greater than the cost of the last unit of education produced. We could have kept increasing the production and consumption of education, of the production of this product, which would generate positive externalities, but that's not what actually occurs. So there is a loss of economic welfare because of the underproduction. And that loss of economic welfare is indicated there by this deadweight loss area.